So the first thing we'll do again is the tapping. You can see I've got my toe spacers on, and I'm bringing in the long dowel. Again, sorry, not the tapping. The first thing that we're going to be doing is the foot rolling. So I've got the bigger dowel. You can use the smaller in circumference dowel if that feels better. This one's a bit longer, however you've set yourself up. Or you can also use the massage balls, the spiky balls, to roll out the feet. So deciding what works best in your body. And once you bring it to your mat in front of you, we'll first just kind of settle in here. And take a moment and take a beat to notice how you're arriving here on your mat today. Checking in with how your body, your feet, is rooting into the mat. So these areas that you might feel a little bit more connected or rooted down. And then also noticing areas that you feel a lightness, maybe even a lifting. Then noticing how your feet have landed, again, whether they are externally rotated or maybe internally rotated, coming to a more parallel stance that feels supportive in your body. And the foot to pelvis connection. So wherever you're rooting down, noticing a line from that rooting point up, how that translates to your pelvis and then throughout the rest of your body. Remembering we have these oppositions at work. So this rooting to rise up. Sometimes we might notice that we're rooting really heavily into certain areas. And maybe we've lost our lightness in other areas. So can we bring in that sense of balance? It's really working with the tensegrity model of the balance between the tension and the integrity of our skeletal structure. So we've got the bones, the structure of our bones. We can notice where they land in space using our proprioception. We can explore one way compared to another, and then finding the balance, finding the center of that. And then allowing the muscles, the fascia, the tendons, and the rest of the connective tissues to drape over the skeletal structure. We might notice how important our breath is here. And the same kind of balance, this expansion, and then a contraction or a gathering back. So even with the breath, we're finding the oppositions at play. As you're ready, we're going to draw the foot you've decided to roll first up. But again, using that rebound, so that rooting to then lift this rebound. So it's almost like because of the rooting, there's a rebound that allows the lift to float up. You can use a wall or you could use a chair here for extra stability. And then moving the whole body as one. So our knee is nicely bent on the standing leg. You can generously bend that knee. Noticing our lines. So maybe when you moved over and shifted to the left, maybe you rooted down a little bit more to the outer foot. See if you can root down still evenly into the inner heel and inner toe mount. When that happens, does your arch go flat? Can you still draw some energy in opposition to the outside of the foot through the arch, lifting up the arch? Good, so you're rolling out the first foot, exploring the pin and twist options. The inside of the arch and the outside of the foot through the heel. And then when you're ready to come off that first foot, you can take a break at any time and then come back in to further roll the foot. We'll check in with that skeletal structure, the integrity of the skeletal structure. And then this outer body is quiet. It's like a draping, a sheet of flesh and fascia that drapes over the integrity of the skeleton, connectedness with the core and the breath. Good. You might decide to do the big toe mounds on the dowel and then a little bit of toe wrapping. Exploring how this feels. You can bend through your knees, noticing how this translates again up your body. Might be enough just to stand with the feet this way, feeling the fascia hydrating or stretching. You also have the option to bring your thumbs into the hip creases, sending energy back through the hip creases, sending the hips back and bringing the body forward, flat back. And when you do so, noticing how the low back widens with this energy moving backwards. Still keeping the rib cage pinned. So as much as you can, drawing that rib cage, pinning it in. And then maybe with a flat back, you've got energy sending out of the crown of the head, out of the tailbone. Maybe you can let the arms hang and maybe circle. If this feels like it's too much, remembering to honor your body, 70% effort or less. Circling one way and the other. We're hydrating, lubricating the articular capsule of the shoulder joint. So this one can be a really great one if you have frozen shoulder or any other shoulder issues. It's called Mortar and Pestle 2, and we'll also do this laying down. So thinking of a mortar and pestle. And to come back up, that rooting to rebound, rising back up. You can come back off your dowel, take a beat or a pause to notice. To practice your interoceptive awareness. And we'll roll the other side. I'm just going to turn the other way so you can see me this direction as well. So, of course, finding your connection, your breath, this rooting down to float the other foot up. Moving this idea of moving the entire body as one piece, working in harmony, working together. Exploring here as long as it feels comfortable. What's happening with the shoulders? So that's one I have to often check in with. Because of whatever's gone on with my injuries in my life, I notice that my shoulders wrap this way. So when I try to bring them into a better alignment, drawing the shoulder blades down the back, my rib cage pops. So as soon as I draw my rib cage in, my shoulders wrap. So I have to have this relationship where the rib cage can stay down and pinned, but my shoulders can also have integrity on my back. So there's this middle point. And then softening. So noticing if you're really gripping or holding, can you soften with keeping the integrity? When that feels complete, you can step off. And you again have the option to go back in for maybe another forward fold with the foot wrapping, maybe going to flat back and then all the way down. Some people might rather enjoy a heel on the dowel, checking in with the heel bone and the stimulation of the osteoblasts, which can support people who are concerned about their bone density or osteoporosis. These osteoblasts help build bone matter. So even here, noticing how you're landing, and then the rebound, what's light, what's lifting, and what's heavy, and drawing, rooting down. And what's happening on the left side of your body compared to the right. Sometimes it's nice to draw the right shoulder blade down your back as if it's going to draw down towards your heel, and then checking in with the left. Good, and you can step off as you're ready. And then if there's any other foot rolling still coming in, you can continue just to finish up. And then we'll check in with our side stretch. So the first video, you focused a little bit on the popping or the sliding and gliding. And so for this one, we're just going to bring in the lateral stretch and this idea of keeping the rib cage pinned down. And you can reach the arm up, keeping the arm bone in the shoulder socket. And you might even just let the palm or the fingertips drop to the upper back. You're still getting a nice lateral release. Rib cage pinned. Noticing how you're landing in the feet. And then you can do the other side. What's the difference between the back of the rib cage and the front of the rib cage? And that's connection through the side body. Good. We'll come into our top of the foot release. I've got my blanket folded just for extra cushioning. You can still again bring in a chair or a wall for extra stability as well. And so grounding down, rooting to rise. Connected to core as you send whichever foot you've decided back first, remembering the closer it is to your body, the lesser the length of the stretch will be, and the farther away you go, the more of a stretch in the regard of how far the hydration will touch. So just listening to that, finding your 70%, keeping the rib cage pinned, soft bend in the standing leg. You can bend through that knee to give you more support. And then also this idea of sending energy out of like a circle that's in your heel. So we're still sending that heel back. You might even take a look back if you can without losing your balance too much. And notice if your heel is in from the alignment of your toes or maybe out. So trying to keep it in line with the toes. And then we can play with the arms and this idea of the elbows gathering in, shoulder blades are still integral on the back, rib cage is keeping pinned. And then we're going to layer in this idea of soft armpits, hollow, soft armpits. So you can notice the relationship of the arm bone in the shoulder socket. And when it's there, that relationship is in play properly, then the armpits can really soften. Before you come out, see if you can play with your balance a little bit, circling the ankle and then shaking the leg out. And then we'll do the other side. You might take a little bit of a sway or palm tree between sides just to let that go. And then checking in on the other side, a little exploration of noticing what's happening on this side of the body. Sending the heel back, straight back, integral, yet draping and soft. Soft armpits. Pinned ribs, lengthening up through the crown of the head. And then playing with balance here, circling both directions through the heel and shaking the leg out. Again, another release. Or you could find stillness just to do your check-in that way, noticing with your interoceptive awareness. So even when we're releasing, I've said it before, we want to notice the relationship here. Rib cage to pelvis, shoulder girdle, foot. This idea of a one moving part working together in opposition. So we'll come down onto our mat to do a little bit of settling. And during this settling, we're going to spend a little bit of time here really connecting to the diaphragm and the transverse abdominis. So I'm just folding my blanket out so that I can lay the entirety of my back body on the blanket. I've also, if you're planning to do any of the other tensegrity videos after this where you're exploring the poses, I've got my slow-mo ball ready to go, and you can get your strap and loop your strap as well so that it's ready to go, that you don't have to get up and do that once you've lied down. I've also got my 2-inch block for underneath my pelvis. So whenever you lay down and you notice how you arrive, for this exploration, you can just explore here and see how that's sitting in your body. If you're getting a lot of low back pain or discomfort, lifting the hips and bringing in your 2-inch block or maybe a folded blanket or any other support can alleviate some of that intense sensation. So I've got my neck pillow. You don't need it, but I like to have it to keep my chin kind of connected through my chest. Once you arrive here, you have another option to do your stretch lying. So you can reach up again kind of through the elbow and shift your body weight to one side as you stretch up through the back body and then lay it back down, keeping the ribs pinned. You can do that on the other side as well, lifting up the other side of the body, rotating to one side, stretching up through the back body and then laying down. Now you could take your hammock for your head and then walk your shoulder blades up. they're still nice and connected on the earth, and then leaning your head into the support of the hands as you lay one vertebrae at a time down onto your pillow. Now you can bring your hands to your hips, hand on heart, hand on belly, or you can allow your arms to open up wide to the side. I like to bring my slow-mo ball in here between the thighs for a little extra connectedness and integrity. Noticing how you land. You could explore how you feel in the feet. Would you like them wider, closer together? Maybe walked a little bit farther away from the pelvis, or exploring them closer to the pelvis. So seeing how that rebounds in your body and what feels the most supportive. So thinking of that skeletal structure, the skeleton, the integrity of each bone, where it lands. And then this draping or this pulley system of your muscles, your fascia, your tendons, ligaments, and how that pulley system works to keep everything in this tensegrity model. Well, think of our transverse abdominis. So that's that big wrapping muscle that wraps from the back and then wraps all the way around the sides through the front body and feeds into the midline of the front body. How it works in relationship with your diaphragm. So you might notice when you inhale, the diaphragm is moving down out of the rib cage. It's contracting. Transverse abdominis is softening. When you exhale, the diaphragm is softening and recoiling back up into the rib cage as the transverse abdominis wraps. So there's this relationship between the diaphragm and the transverse abdominis, always working to allow the other one to contract or soften. Noticing the breath through the sides of the rib cage, your radiant breath. How might it touch the back of your body, the back of your rib cage? So we're just climbing inside our bodies here with interoception to really bring our one-pointed focus or awareness to what's happening on the inside. And then we'll layer on the jaw, allowing the jaw and the lips to part. Maybe the tongue touches the roof of the mouth just behind the teeth, or maybe the tongue softens back here, and that might feel better for this exploration. And then layering on the eyeballs. So we have 6 muscles that feed into the eye, and we can check in with our eyeball to notice our level of consciousness. So when we have this kind of reaching forward or really active eyeballs behind the eyelids, you might notice that sometimes there's a flutter. You can really feel all of the muscles of the eyeball kind of activated. That means we're in that ego consciousness. We're really trying to figure things out, or we're reaching outside of ourselves. And can we allow the eyeballs to soften, the muscles to relax, and the eyeballs to just sink back into that hammock support? Dropping into our buddhi, our witness consciousness. We're no longer looking outside of ourselves for any answers. We're just watching. We're just witnessing what's happening. And revel here as long as you like in stillness. And then you can move on to your tapping. As you're ready, I'm not going to go through the tapping for this video, but please do go into your tapping practice, remembering to listen to your body as to where it wants to be tapped, starting gently, and then moving up through the digestive tract. When you're tapping there, noticing the vibration move all the way through the organs, maybe even into the back body. You might feel that vibration. So move on to your tapping practice, your palming practice, maybe the humming bee breath, and then moving on into the rest of your Tensegrity series. So whether you're practicing maybe 1B and number 5 to start out, then go ahead and practice those together. I'm going to keep this a little bit shorter, just to not make these practices too crazy long for you. This could also be practiced totally alone without moving into the postures of feeling the sliding and gliding. It would still be beneficial, but of course the other postures can be extra beneficial as well. So just listening to your needs each day, deciding whether that practice suits you or not, and then